Trapped by the belief that I'm not good enough, bound by the limitations and the lies that consumed my world, this was me. It wasn't until I took the biggest leap in my life to know and trust the power within. And it was at that moment I made a choice. My past will not define me anymore. Hello, I am Teri, and I know I am not alone in this. Over the years, I have found that the number one mistake that we make is that we get in the way of our own success story. Yes, I said it. On this show, together we'll tackle limiting beliefs, self sabotage, getting stuck, fear, doubt, overwhelm, and the imposter syndrome. Join us on this journey designed to transport you beyond your limitations to a world where anything is possible. This is Talking with Teri. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We have the fabulous Dorris Burch with us. She is the founder of the Fab Factor. She's the author of the Little Black Book of Being Fabulous. That just sounds so juicy. I love it. And she's also the host of the new Fab You Show podcast. So welcome back, Dorris.
Oh my gosh, Teri, thank you. I'm so glad to be back.
Fantastic. Okay, so I want folks to, get to know you a little bit better. So, tell us how you came to be the fabulous Dorris Burch.
Well, I do say that being the fabulous Dorris Burch is a divine assignment. And so because
I just love the fact that I just love it.
yeah, because the thing was I was conditioned to go the corporate route. And so I followed all of those proverbial steps to make that happen. And yet I had this deep, deep, deep calling within myself that was just something was calling me forth. And I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it meant, but it stayed with me year after year after year after year. And it was really once I finally was like, okay, I've got to figure this thing out. What is this thing that I'm feeling? And I had my, what I call my voice of God moment and heard the download that, literally said to me, Dorris, I'm going to have you on a platform empowering women to be the highest version of who I created them to be. And that stuck with me. That sounded like yes.
That just gave me chills. Oh, that's juicy.
Yeah, I mean, I still get chills from remembering that. It was an amazing experience. But you know what? Because I was a corporate girl and I was like, how? So I was all like, how? How am I going to do that? I don't even understand what that means. I don't even know. And here's the big thing. I didn't even think I had a voice.
Yeah.
So when you don't think you have a voice, then you're like, okay, well, I don't know how I'm going to do this. So, but it stayed with me. It stayed with me and it stayed with me, which is why I know this was a divine assignment to step into being the fabulous Dorris Burch, because what that does is it gives me that unapologetic permission to really operate in my full-blown femininity and power, and from a place of receiving, and then trusting and knowing who it is we are being is the first thing to dictate whatever else happens in your life. Because once, when I heard that and I didn't know the how, and I was like, I didn't have a voice, right then in that moment, I stopped the beingness of who I was being called to be.
Oh, yeah.
And so when we stop the beingness of who we're called to be, then we do all these other things. We think there are these other check boxes we're supposed to check, or T's we're supposed to cross, and we're supposed to do it a certain way. But really, my whole thing is life always accepts your terms. The terms you decide to offer it will accept. So you have to think about what terms are you offering.
Yeah. So how did you go from, corporate to having this download to creating what you are creating today? So, what struggles or challenges did you find along your path that helped with that clarity for you?
Well, the initial clarity was after the birth of my son. So that brought a lot to the table. A new mom, looking at this life, and you start asking yourself, or at least I started asking myself, who would I be with a different story? And when I asked myself, who would I be with a different story, story of not being this corporate girl, the story of, how do I tell my son, you can really tap into your dreams and you can really do life the way, I had been reading and studying all these people who were doing life on their terms. And they were saying you could do that. And I was like, well, how do you get to be that person? And I knew from my own personal experience with my mom was that she didn't really fulfill her dreams. She did the safe thing, the secure thing, but her dreams still stayed with her. And so that gave me insight that your dreams never leave. So after my son was born and I asked myself, who would I be with a different story? Then I had to start exploring that. And the desire just came that I needed to find out who I would be with a different story. And so I left the corporate world. We actually relocated, which gave me my out. Because I wasn't brave enough just to quit. So I was like, and an out.
I hear that. Well, and even just leaving, right? Like that gave you permission, right, to leave, right? And I think that there's a lot of times that other, if we don't have that in that moment, the outside factors will always, support us in making the choices that we get to choose to help us lead us on a path. So I feel like we're always being supported 1000%. And so even though that necessarily wasn't your choice, you were supported in making that choice for you and your family. So
yeah. And so when I had that behind me and I lived in a new city and I was like, okay, what do I do? And I was asking, what's my next move? And I had a conversation with a friend. She told me what she was doing and she was stepped into this direct sale company. And I was like, I'm in. It was a company that was full of women. I have this download that I'm supposed to empower women. I'm going to jump into this company. And it was the best thing I could have ever done, even though I didn't remember that I had just moved to a new city that I didn't know anybody, which was quite somewhat of a problem.
Yeah, ignorance is bliss, yes.
But it brought a challenge. It brought a challenge that, am I going to really say yes to this thing? And am I going to find out who I'm really supposed to be? And I said yes to that. And I went through the whole awakening of finding out what I needed to know about myself, about women, about really living life on your terms, about tapping into your desires, which most women leave on the table when you start working your corporate job or this career, and you forget who you were once upon a time. And this company allowed me to tap back into those things. And then you start seeing all these other women who disrupted their status quo and rose up to be these women that they never knew was inside of them to become. So I got to see a visual representation of what it looks like for a woman to be operating at her highest version and continue to do so. And that was the awakening for me. And that opened the door.
I love that. I love that. So what do you contribute? So you went through this process and you came into direct sales, right?
Yeah.
Saw these women doing extraordinary things. It almost for me, it almost like gave you permission to say, if they're doing it, I can too, right?
It did. It was that unapologetic permission you don't even know that you need.
Yeah.
But you need to see it, because when you come from a corporate space, you don't see that. It's a different environment. And it literally is closed off to you living your fullest, most fabulous life. And so when I saw these women giving me permission, and what I realized now, hindsight, looking back, was everything I went through in that direct sell company was the foundation work to step into me creating my coaching business.
I love it. So what was some of that foundational work that you found yourself doing?
It was just the whole thing of, who are you? Who are you being? One thing I learned in direct sales is that numbers do not lie. And so your results are based on your numbers. You're either doing the work or you're not. And you have to get over whatever limiting beliefs you have, to support you in doing the work, because everything about you that is within you that you don't even know that is within you of a limiting belief will rise up really quick when you are in territory that is uncomfortable for you.
Yeah.
So I was in totally uncomfortableness. I had to now follow this protocol that this business has set forth and share this amazing product and get over myself and get out of my own way.
That's easier said than done, right?
It
But
is
I always
way
tell
easier
people,
said than done.
if you are ready for personal development, go open your own entrepreneurial business, and everything that you have been hiding from, everything that you have been running from, tuck that back there. It will be exposed in your own business. I truly believe that, like, everything is coming up. So how would you, like, what tip or strategy or just awareness that you would give to someone else that's in those same shoes of going from corporate and either going into direct sales, to help them overcome limiting beliefs? Because we can say that, but and I work with folks that are constantly in the challenge of limiting beliefs and self-sabotage and in the fear and doubt and worry, and even just living in the imposter syndrome or not having the confidence. So what was one of the ways in which you helped quiet that internal mind so that you could launch yourself forward from that limiting belief that you found yourself being held back by?
Well, the first thing was that for me, having the mentors, all the women who were in it, doing it, achieving it, and being available to be extremely coachable was the key. Because what I realized was that these women, you hear their stories, they share their insight, and they're telling you, and they're doing that so that you can achieve what you want to achieve. And they're letting you know that you see where they are at this particular moment. But to get there, they had to remove and release limiting beliefs. And they had to start defining who it is they wanted to be and the life they wanted to have on their terms. And I think the biggest thing for anybody leaving one thing to go to the next thing is that in that transition period is to really get clear what it is that you really want.
Yeah.
One of the things I knew I wanted was freedom.
Yeah. And so by getting really clear of like, okay, here's where I'm heading, here's where I like to create, by getting that clarity, helped you, break past some of those barriers.
Yeah, because it was going to give me the freedom. And so the thing is, you won't have it. It won't be totally revealed, but like I knew I wanted freedom. And so the freedom was what I was wanting. With me seeking the freedom came all the experiences that were going to be uncomfortable to break down all these limiting beliefs I had to get the freedom to be who I want to be, to get the freedom to realize that I had desires I had left on the table, that I had new ones, that it's possible that, one of our things that we work with our people about is, the B in Fab is believe all things are possible. When you can believe all things are possible, including for you, that's a game changer.
I agree with you 1000%. It is such a game changer. And it's believing it before you see it, right? Because I think sometimes we need to we want to put it out there and we want to see it. But if we can get to that place and space of just believing it 1000% without seeing it yet, it just helps shift it so easily and effortlessly into our lives, with more ease. So I absolutely love, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you.
Yes.
So that led you up to the direct sales, gave you the confidence, broke down some of those barriers and challenges and beliefs that you had about yourself, gave yourself permission to step into where you're at today, which is now into the coaching world. Share a little bit about that experience with you.
Yeah, well, I am grateful I had my years in direct sales, because working with the women, building a team, clients, just other women that were part of the organization was completely prepare you to have a coaching business. Like, oh my God, I was like, thank goodness I went through that, because what, what you still have to do in your own business is the same thing I had to do in direct sales, is that you still have to go out and find, put yourself out there. You have to call in, who your clients are going to be. You have to have the conversations with various people, and you have to overcome, well, I do it differently now, but I'll say you have to overcome objections, but really there are no objections when you realize and learn who you are being and what you're doing in your business, that is it. And that if anybody else has some issues or some gosh, I can't even think of the word I want to say, just any, what's the word?
Like challenges or struggles?
Objections to, that thing that you learned in the beginning. Those things came up a lot because I think it was just that whole getting comfortable with the transition of, I am now the CEO of this empire that I had envisioned, that is not yet the envisionment, if that's even a word.
I'm going with it. I make up words all the time. I'm going with it.
And you're at the beginning of this big thing you see, and at the beginning of it, you're wearing every single hat, and you have to bring in the money.
Yeah, being an entrepreneur is no easy. And I think sometimes we forget that. We are, I love the book that by Michael Gerber, talks about the EMyth, and he talks about like this, the flow chart of a business, but we're the CEO, we're the head salesperson, we're the head, technician, or the head, delivery of service. We're the marketing person. We might be our own receptionist. We might be our own bookkeeper and CPA, until we build a team that is helping support us. We are one of everything. And it's like, okay, which hat am I putting on today for this moment? And that can be a big barrier for folks, because it puts us in overwhelm, because there's so many tasks and so many things to do.
Yeah, it is so many things to do. For me, I was on adrenaline pump for about 3 years. So I was just like
a kid in a candy shop, right? Like, whoo.
I was like, yeah. But when you start to grow though, then you can start to feel like what thing is no longer in alignment for you to be doing. And then that's the thing you need to start outsourcing. And so when you start, because you get really skilled at what you do, and then you realize that your time is so much more valuable, and the thing that you do. So I'm in the business of transformation. So the transformation is what I have to be, pulling out of myself to work with clients and getting in that energy and the vibration. And so I had to let go of some things that were other people's things to do. And I just had to, change the brand up and, take it to the next level.
So speaking of your transformation, you work with clients in that transformational space. What has been your biggest transformation on your journey?
My biggest transformation really was the moment when I realized I needed a brand. And when needing a brand, what was that brand going to be? And that's when I went within myself to figure out what was the thing about me that was just me. And I went back, I'm a fashion major, and I've always been interested in fashion and beauty. And one of my things was that I always just wanted to look like I walked off the cover of a Vogue magazine. That's just my thing. And that made me feel fabulous with, just that whole thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is when I incorporated and said, I'm the Fabulous Dorris Burch. And then I was like, well, we have to take it to another level of, what the dictionary defines as fabulous. What is the fabulous going to be for the Fab Factor? And I realized that my leaving the corporate world to starting this coaching business and the 3 years in it at that point was I had literally created and walked through every layer of being fabulous for myself, that it was now the work that I do with the clients. And so that's why when I say it's a divine assignment, it is so much deeper and so much more powerful. in the work we do here at the Fab Factor on our message of women to don't be invisible, be fabulous, because you have to go through those 8 layers in order to step into that level of permission, that unapologetic permission to be who it is you're really meant to be.
I love it. Yeah, and if you guys go to her website, oh my goodness, you do look like you just stepped off the Vogue catalog. I'm telling you, it looks fabulous. I'm like, it's just juicy. And you're right. And it sounds like you've combined everything so beautifully in one package, in the sense of, looking fabulous on the outside, but also, looking inward, and what is that transformation that we get to do in the inner work, to really, catapult ourselves forward and really step into our brilliance, really step into our, as you say, fabulousness, right? And I think I just made up that word too, the fabulousness, to really embrace who we are, why, our differences, our unique abilities, and everything. It just creates a beautiful little package. So thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your story and your transformation, and thank you for having an impact. I think I'm a firm believer, and I think we need more people just like you doing the work that you're doing, so that we can have a far-reaching impact in the world. So thank you. So how do people find you? How do people stay in touch with you and connect with you?
Well, thank you for having me on your podcast. And people can find me at thefabfactor.com. And you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. And Instagram, you will find I am the Fabulous Dorris Burch. Facebook is Dorris Burch. And be sure to listen to the New Fab You Show podcast at newfabyourshowpodcast.com.
I love it. So we're going to be adding those down in the show notes to take a look at that information. And until next time, thank you, the Fabulous Dorris Burch.
Thank you, Teri.
I am so grateful that you joined me for this episode. If you've enjoyed this, then there's just one thing that I would like you to do. Click to subscribe and leave me a rating and review. As my way to thank you, let's connect for a free consultation. Just reach out to me at talkingwithteri, that's TERI.com, to book your time.